Welcome back. This is the part 2 of the video of the second lecture. What is research? In the last video, we saw the basic question in science, whether discoveries happen by accident or they are well planned. However they happen, we need to know that people conduct research for various purposes. Some people conduct research for the very purpose that they are serendipitous. That means suddenly we'll discover something. Almost like, finding a gold mine when you are digging for something else. But then, a lot of people conduct research because we have an inherent curiosity. A lot of us have realized this as we know something new for the first time. For the first time, maybe a human would have known that particular thing. And that's the thrill that a researcher gets. So that's the joy to know. Some people view research as a kind of hunting. Hunting for new knowledge. Hunting for new things. It has a tinge of an adventure. Some others view research as a very, very planned, systematic observation. Like an academic, like a scientist, or maybe like a philosopher who is observing things. So people conduct research for various purposes. But there has been a big debate in science as to whether research happens because of accident or it is because of planned observation. This is the question. Is it serendipity or planned observation? So that is the question with which we started with ended our previous video. What is serendipity? A lot of times you suddenly discover something out of accident. For example, sildenafil was actually discovered in a cardiovascular research. Or minoxidil, which is now the drug for male baldness, was originally tested as an antihypertensive. So in both of these cases, it was a happy accident that they got to know some other effect of that particular medication, which was also useful. So when active researchers are searching something, sometimes they make serendipitous observations. Keen observers get a faint clue and that leads to a big discovery. But Heath says, keep on going in research. I never heard of anyone stumbling on something sitting down. So, keen observation, planned research can only lead to such serendipitous observations. No one sitting down has not discovered anything. Louis Pasteur says in the field of observation, chance favors only the prepared mind. But then, don't we have a big example of Sir Isaac Newton sitting down under a tree and suddenly discovering gravitation? So, was it a flash of moment? This question has been answered by another research. A researcher called Howard Gruber caught hold of the diary written by Charles Darwin. Actually, Darwin declares that he discovered the theory of evolution by serendipity. On one summer afternoon, he was reading a book and suddenly the principles involved in theory of evolution appeared in his mind and he wrote it down. At least that's what Darwin says. But Howard Gruber wanted to prove or disprove this, so he caught hold of the diary of Charles Darwin and tried to look at all the pages where the Charles Darwin had not discovered, according to Charles Darwin, the theory. To surprise of Howard Gruber, he found that Charles Darwin had all the bits and pieces, the components of theory of evolution much prior to the day when he thought he had this great idea. So, Howard Gruber concludes that it was Charles Darwin's keen observation and a scientific mind for a long period of time. Those observations led him to suddenly on that day connect all the dots and come out with a new theory. But his keen observations and systematic way of recording things had definitely helped him in coming out with that idea. So, though Darwin claims it is serendipity, suddenly the idea occurred in his mind, Howard Gruber clarifies that Charles Darwin discovered this as a result of keen observation for a long period of time. That's the importance of keen observation or planning for your research when you will do research, because surprises are not good always. It's not always that you try one drug and you discover another new drug. It doesn't happen always. Sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of times, in fact, during our postgraduate dissertation, there are surprises which are not good, especially when you don't plan research well. Like, you have planned a research and you don't know how to measure the outcome. I have found research protocols where they say the measurement will be done using electron microscopy. Then I ask them a question, okay, what is the unit of measurement that you will get? Or will it be a picture? Or will it be in microns? Or will it be in any specific units? Then the student doesn't have an answer because he has not planned how to measure the outcome. Sometimes you did not consider all the factors that were interfering with research results. For example, we have a big list of confounding factors and biases. If you did not account for these, then you would at the end of research suddenly realize, oh, we did not account for this factor at all. And then you have nothing to do but publish it as it is, because your research is already done. So you don't want such a surprise, right? If you don't want, then you have to plan research well. Sometimes instrument of measurement was not available. You thought it is available at a place, they gave you permission also, but when you actually went and tried to do it, it is not available. Or as I have found out in my own post-graduation time, the instrument didn't work as expected. I wanted to measure the pH in a plaque, and when I approached the department, they said yes, the instrument is available. And when I finished collecting my samples and I went to that institution, they gave me the electrode. The electrode had the electrolyte in it dried out, and no one knew what electrolyte it was or how to refill it. So that was a big drawback for me. I had to search a lot other places to get the same instrument. Sometimes you get a surprise with not getting enough patients for your research. Sometimes you plan a research with 20 people, 10 of them do not turn up at all. That is lost to follow. Or sometimes patients say they have used it, but they have not used it, and that's why you didn't get the result properly. So this usually happens when you prescribe a medication and ask them to take it by themselves at their homes. Sometimes results take longer than expected. So, in a nutshell, surprises are not always good. So you should always plan your research. What drives research? We talked about what are the motives for research. One thing that should always drive research is disease burden. The disease burden in a community should push the health professional and funding agencies to fund and then conduct a research in a specific priority area. Only when you do research like that, your disease burden in the community will be addressed. Otherwise, you just don't want to do research just out of sake of curiosity, but also utility. So that is needs driven research. So research is making of observations in a systematic fashion. It starts with a clinical question, then literature search, feasibility analysis and doing a pilot study, then coming up with your study synopsis, then getting an approval for ethics committee, then collecting data, analyzing data and coming out with the publication. So in all this process, just remember that good research follows good preparation. If you are asked to cut a tree down, if the axe is not proper, then you should first spend time in sharpening the axe. So that's what is your synopsis. Write your synopsis properly. Then the entire process of felling the tree will be faster. So research process starts with formulating a research problem, then extensive literature survey, developing an assumption or a hypothesis, then preparing a research design, determining the sample design, collecting data or information, then executing the project, analyzing the data, testing your hypothesis using tests of significance, then you make the generalizations and interpretations of that study, and then prepare a report or a write-up so that you can make a publication. So when you do these things, just remember one thing. As a researcher, you don't want to be doing a programmatic, you want to be doing a programmatic research and not an opportunistic research. Let me differentiate that. What's an opportunistic research? You found a grant, you found a sponsor, you found a new instrument, and then you want to research on that. That's opportunistic research. That's not very well planned. A programmatic research is a research where a researcher chooses a small area of study and keeps conducting research in that particular area so that he becomes an expert, well-known expert in that field over a period of time. So that's what is a programmatic research, and I urge you to carry out programmatic researches. So where do the research ideas come from? From various places. Teachers, guide, mentor, seniors, colleagues, literature, and also your own keen observations. A lot of times research ideas come from interaction with other people. So Stephen Johnson, a researcher, conducted a study. Where do good ideas come from for a good research? And he realized a large number of times good research comes by collaboration, by synthesizing from various fields. Example for that is Warren and Marshall's H. pylori study, which won a Nobel Prize, which I referred to in the previous class. This is identification of a genome, 1% of human genome, published in Nature. How many authors for this? You can see this is a list of authors. So collaborative research means you need to work with multiple number of people to conduct a research. Okay, let us end this slide by examining an example for a research report. There are 4 parts of a typical research work: a research question, research methods, results, and conclusion. Research question basically addresses why the study was done. What was the purpose of the study? Research methods section of an article or a research paper explains what was done in a way that is replicable. The result section shows us what was found, and the conclusion section shows us what does it mean. So this is the 4 parts of a research paper. An example here, a treatise on scurvy by James Lind. I have tried to convert that into a simple result. Aim of this study was to evaluate the effectiveness of existing medicines as a cure for scurvy, to compare the effectiveness of 6 medicinal preparations on bleeding gums and joint pain in patients with scurvy, a clinical trial. This was the result. Out of the people who got various things, the people who got the fresh fruits were the ones who were cured. So this is how the research report is written. Thank you.